It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Steve Dennis over at Bloomberg. He's one of their Senate reporters. He tweeted out today that the U.S. COVID death count topped 1,000 today. And look, you know, I've as I've said before, I have a PhD listener who sends me all of his models. He has been spot on. He predicted this. Going to get worse. And it's going to get worse because, well, we're just, wow. I mean, I'm watching all of the news that's going on. And I have this moment where maybe there's too much news. Maybe there are too many news sources. Maybe there are too many places where people are claiming to get news, when really all we're getting is spin and propaganda and well, your ideology. It's almost to the point where, and again, I go back to the former guy's years, where we were talking about alternative facts and you know, there used to be a time where you could have your own opinions, but facts mattered. When you're getting 100,000 new cases of COVID a day, and you're getting 1,000 people dying now today. We're heading to a place where at the end of September, the model that my listener sends me saying 300,000 people getting sick every day. And look, you go, wow, the numbers are so low of people dying. Yeah, but when you're talking about 300,000 people each and every single day, eventually that number grows. And we end up having thousands of people dying every day over something that we could do something about. And I'm looking all around the country. The news of coming out of classrooms is that, you know, basically classrooms are shutting themselves down because all the kids are being sent home. All because we've got Karen going to the school board meetings throwing a fit. And what happened today? I turn on Twitter, all I see is this conservative media whining over white rage. And look, they need that. They need that shiny thing. They need the you are getting sleepy. They need the thing to grab your attention and keep you mesmerized and keep you watching and clicking and buying all of their stuff and buying their ideology. They need that. They thrive on it. And like junkies, like addicts, we go to it. You know, I had a conversation today with someone who told me that they're not political, but they voted for Donald Trump twice. Basically walking me through how Joe Biden caused the fall of Afghanistan. We were winning Afghanistan. We were winning, according to this guy. We were winning in Afghanistan. Until Joe Biden came. Winning. Couldn't define what winning was, mind you, but believed internally, viscerally, believed that Donald Trump was keeping us safe there. But when you look at the deal that they made, wow. You know, it was kind of an all giveaway to the Taliban. It was kind of okay, here, you take whatever you want. We're going to give you your prisoners back. We're going to give you your 5,000 people back. We're going to do all this stuff, and we're going to get out. You can take over. Go out. He actually didn't believe that was the deal. I pulled it up on the phone. I said, here it is, right here. Still didn't believe it. Could not believe it was right in front of his eyes. And then, interestingly enough, and this is the weird part, again, as I talked about yesterday, this love affair now with the Afghani people, he goes, well, what about all those poor people? And I go, look, it's a horrible tragedy. It was always a horrible tragedy. But where were you 20 years ago when I was saying don't go there? Where were you when the left was saying, don't do it. We don't have a clear mission. Go kill bin Laden. Get that done. Could have done that in Bora Bora right away. Could have happened. But as soon as we did that, so we went after Al Qaeda and we're done. Gather the sheep, get the flock out. But oh, no. It was time to now then fleece the American taxpayer and then use our corporate controlled media to keep telling this guy that we're winning. We need more. Uh-oh, they're surging. We need more. Up, they've taken this. We need more. Keep funneling money. Keep sending money. Keep sending money. Keep sending our young. Keep sending our soldiers. All the while, here we are, all the while, being told that we're not being patriotic if we don't stand for the national anthem, not being patriotic if we don't clap for the people who served in the armed services. All of these things to keep us, well, between the lines. Don't question the military. Don't question what we're doing over there. And our elected leaders didn't either. You know, as I just said yesterday, the Senate, one of the Senate subcommittees on finance actually did 42 hearings on what they're spending during Vietnam. Over the 20 years that it's been, Afghanistan was going on here, they had 5. The difference of 42, 5. Because what happened in Afghanistan was exactly what was supposed to happen. And you look at the strategic report that they came out with, and, you know, what did we learn? Well, we learned what we always knew. We knew war was a racket. We knew the billionaires were going to do well. We knew corporate America was going to be fat and happy with their snouts deep in the trough. We knew it. And our corporate-controlled media, brought to you by Lockheed Martin, brought to you by Bechtel, brought to you by Halliburton, brought to you by Kellogg, Brown and Root, brought to you by all of the defense contractors, because, of course, they're the ones who are funding this stuff, keeping us stupid, not asking questions, not asking, hey, why are we spending so much money turning big rocks into little ones? Hey, why are we building a road to people who have never seen a car? You know, why are we, building, schools and massive buildings in places where there's no infrastructure to get to? Why are we doing all this? Oh, we're building the nation so that they can have democracy. Democracy they don't want. Never have wanted. They've never had. They don't even understand the word. But yet we're going to impose it on them. And this is one of those moments where I look at our free press, which is not free. It's owned by corporate America. And for all the lies of it's a liberal media, it's a corporate media. We do what the corporations want because they're the ones footing the bill. You know, I had someone tell me today that the Vietnam War was ended because of investigative journalism, because reporters were telling the truth, because reporters were investigating where the money was going, who was lining their pockets, and all of the horrific outcomes of what happened. There were actually journalists doing that. And when Walter Cronkite said, this is almost unwinnable, the nation listened. Today, if Walter Cronkite were alive today and he were to say that, he'd have 100 Fox News people going, oh no, see, he's un-American. He hates America. He hates the troops. He hates your children. He kicks puppies. And then that would somehow play as news. This war in Afghanistan, our media not just failed to inform us of what was going on, not just failed to hold elected leaders accountable, but they were complicit. Because they profit off it too. They profited off all the stories. They profited off of all of the money that they got from these big corporations to keep things, well, within bounds. They had journalists embedded. And we looked at war as a game. I remember the first Gulf War. And I remember CNN. I remember watching the war on TV. It was like a video game. I remember watching it on TV and the flashes of lights. Oh, look at that. Oh, it was like 4th of July. It was like fireworks almost. And the humanity completely wiped out of it. When those bombs dropped on someone's life was probably ended in that moment. But we didn't. No, it was sanitized. It was on TV. We watched it like a video game. And it was easy. We didn't have to do anything. We could get popcorn during the intermission. And it was over really quick. We got to say, we're number one again. Pump up our chest. The media played into it hugely. War was in. And then they talked us into another one. And we wanted it. Look, we wanted it. We wanted that feeling from the first Gulf War. We wanted Storm and Norman. We wanted the parades. We wanted the world to be afraid. We wanted to go get revenge. And our media was quite happy to feed that want. Instead of doing what they should have been doing, going, whoa, hold on, slow down. There are consequences here. Hold on, slow down. What is the aim? What is the goal? What are we doing? What's the direction? They didn't do that. They cheerleaded because they had front row seats. They had access. And with that access, normally you would go, hey, that comes with responsibility, if you're that close to it, to telling the truth, to informing the public. Because without actual news, without actual reporting, investigative journalism, nonpartisan, non-ideological, we become what we are now. Two countries within one with different ideological aims, goals, views, belief structures, and pitted against each other. And when that happens, and again, this comes down to the politics of where we are. There's no middle ground left. I say I'm a liberal. I'm an old school liberal. And the great thing about being an old school liberal is I'm usually right. History eventually proves me right. The war in Afghanistan, I was in favor of going and getting bin Laden. Got to go get him. We need that. You need the national revenge. You got to get him. But invading and occupying, I was smart enough to remember what happened to the Soviets. I remember reading about what happened to the British. Thought it was a bad idea for us. Dick Cheney himself even knew that invading and occupying a country was a bad idea when he was Secretary of Defense. Didn't matter when he was Vice President, because then it was about the money. It was really about the money. And again, our media let us down. And in this moment, where our media could really be digging into this 20-year war, could really be digging into the who, the why, the how, and then help us be educated about the lessons, the real lessons on how we avoid doing this to our young people in the future ever again. They choose not to. They choose to focus on the horse race. It's Trump's fault. It's Biden's fault. Whose fault? It's Biden's fault? Trump's fault. No. It's Biden's fault. It's Trump's fault. This is where we are. Simple binary choices. Simple flip of the coin choices. Simple polar opposite. Keep people pitted against one another so they don't ask the tough questions. And the tough questions come back to who profited off of this debacle. Who made the most money off of this? Where did those trillions of dollars go? And who authorized it and why? And why weren't we at the wheel? For most people, and I said this the other day, for most people, the war in Afghanistan and Iraq did not touch them in one way, shape, or form. Nothing. Because the majority of us don't have people in the military. We might know somebody, but it didn't touch us. We were asked to go shopping. We were asked to prop up the economy. We gave tax cuts to the rich. It was business as usual on the home front. There was no mobilization. There was no war footing. And why? Again, it comes back, for me anyway, back to how badly our media screwed this up. And it's because, and for me, it's this simple. It's because they are embedded. They are part of the system now. I think it was Art Buchwald who said, if you beat them up enough, they make you part of the establishment. That's what happened with our investigative journalists during the Vietnam era. They beat them up enough to the point they're going, no, we got to bring you in, and we're going to give you access. You'll get first dibs. You'll get to jump on the competition, and you'll get the prizes and the awards and all of that. It'll be great. It'll be grand. You'll still be able to do your the less important stuff. But the big stuff, like us stealing trillions of dollars from the coffers, look the other way. And they did. I mean, you go back through all of the contractor crimes of the last 20 years, there was a story here or there, occasionally. But nothing like the graft that was going on. Nothing like the amount of money that was being funneled in who knows what directions, with nobody paying attention. And I blame everybody. See, this isn't for me. This is non-political. This isn't, Barack Obama did. No, this isn't, but Joe Biden's completely harmless. Because I don't know that now was the right time to do this. I don't know that now was the right time to withdraw. And later on the program, we'll talk to a military expert, Larry Korb, and maybe get some thoughts on when we should have. But I look at this moment and go, it's all of them. Every single one of them. And even going back before that, every one of them that fed the military-industrial complex, every one of them that pushed for more military spending to be unaccounted for. And us just to shovel truckloads of cash towards, they're keeping us safe. Got to fight them over there so we don't fight them here. Nobody's been held accountable for this. Or any of these things. And they never do get held accountable. This isn't new. We act like, oh my gosh, this is something new. This isn't new. This is the history of civilization. This is what happens. War is about money and power on one side, and, dead working class people on the other. For me, it's that simple. I got a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. Going to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to talk with Bruno Amato. He's running for Congress in California against Kevin McCarthy. This should be interesting. Quick break, right back. Stick around.
There's nothing more American than workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. That was the day striking Teamsters in Minneapolis defied martial law. They stopped scab trucks, forcing the release of their strike leaders. Armed with bayonets and machine guns, the National Guard had patrolled the streets for nearly a week. They seized scores of strikers and union leaders and threw them into military stockades. Drivers were outraged. They defied Governor Olson and Major General Walsh, who, on behalf of the Citizens Alliance and trucking bosses, were determined to break the strike. Soon after strikers were imprisoned, drivers began chasing scab trucks across the city. Multiple reports poured in of picketers forcing trucks to stop. Some unloaded their cargo onto bridges. Others chased, captured, and damaged the scab trucks. Strikers ripped ignition wires out, forced scabs from the wheel, and then disappeared before police and the National Guard could arrive to retaliate. In just 3 hours, strikers had overturned nearly 70 trucks. Unable to stop the superior force of striking drivers, Bill Brown, Vincent, and Miles Dunn were ordered unconditionally released from the military stockades. Now, employers, the governor, and other strike-breaking agencies were eager to propose peace to federal mediators. But they proposed to scrap the terms of their earlier May agreement. In response, the leaders of Local 574 issued a general strike call. In it, they asked, quote, "Is there one man so blind as not to see that if 574 is allowed to go down to defeat under the brutal hammering of military despotism, the whole labor movement of the city will have been dealt a mortal blow? Union men, brothers, sisters, fellow workers, what are you going to do about it? We appeal to you for solidarity.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it looks like we're not going to get Bruno on the line. And look, I was hoping to have a conversation with him because Kevin McCarthy just, honestly, truthfully, one of the guys that, when you look at what happened on January 6th, somebody I want to see testify, but somebody I want to see out of Congress. And look, as I was talking about our media, the sad reality is we're in this space, and there's no one to help us because our political structure has even gone just completely haywire, where facts don't even matter. And I pointed at Lauren Boebert, who had the audacity, and this is one of those things, and I want my Republican friends to think about this for a second. She had the audacity to say that the Taliban is building back better, as literally people are leaving, grabbing onto a plane and hoping to hold on. It's crazy to me, and it's just one of those things that at some point you have to go, enough already. The audacity. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out what was banging through her head when she thought it was a good idea, to tweet out that the Taliban is building back better. I mean, I literally can't figure that out. I'm struggling with it on an enormous level. But my Republican friends, stop and think. 10 years ago, would that have been the line of the Republican Party? It is where we are right now. And it's dangerous. It's scary. And someone has to be held accountable. For me, it's pretty much that simple. And until we do something about it, like get rid of some of these bums, it's going to continue. That's why I've asked Bruno Amato to come talk with us. Bruno is running for Congress in California's 23rd congressional district against a guy who, Nancy Pelosi called a moron, and they're selling moron shirts. I mean, if taking on that kind of a name doesn't make you go, what is wrong with these people? It just makes me shake my head. And here to share some thoughts on why he's running for Congress and why Kevin McCarthy. I've asked Bruno to be here. Bruno, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, how are you, man?
I am good. I appreciate you taking a little time for us. So why? Why are you jumping? Why? Same question I ask anyone running for Congress. Why? Why are you doing this?
So I'll tell you something. I say this. I'm a veteran, and when I joined the service, I took an oath to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Kevin McCarthy takes that same oath every 2 years as a congressman, but he doesn't defend this nation. He defends terrorists who attacked us. And that's basically what got me to run January 6th, man. That was the big, I had thoughts about running, but that everything came to that day, my decision.
No. And look, and I've been saying for the longest time, we need working people to step forward and run for these positions. And we as working people need to vote for fellow working class folks to ask the tough questions. Because look, we look at what's going on in Afghanistan, and you as a veteran, I want to get your thoughts on what's going on there. But, for me, this isn't about Joe Biden. This isn't about even Donald Trump. This is about the entire system that for 20 years failed our soldiers and failed the taxpayers and failed this, not just this nation, but the globe with their lies and all the stuff that went on. But I guess I've pontificated a bit much. What's your thought?
Well, first I just want to say, as far as being from the working class, I see that union label behind you, and I'm a member of two unions, the Iron Workers Union and the Screen Actors Guild for like the past 20 years. But I was a union iron worker for a decade. But yeah, as far as this whole Afghanistan thing, I mean, to me, it was, from the get-go, it was, I remember the Bush being on that aircraft carrier with the big mission accomplished sign. Remember that? That was 20 years ago. I mean, and we're still messing around there. All these guys, I feel horrible, that lost their lives or who now like have no limbs and, their lives and their families' lives are totally destroyed because of this unwinnable war. It was like Vietnam all over again. It just, I don't know what to say. I don't put all the blame on Joe Biden because everybody's like focusing on these past couple days where, sure, things could have been done a lot better. But this thing has been going on. I mean, how long are we going to stay there? So it's just a tough thing, man. Right. I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback and say, hey, this should have been done and this, that. I mean,
no, I'm with you, but here's where my point is, and I say this all the time. We should have never gone there, and I said from the beginning, if we do go there, because I grew up I was born in the late '60s. I grew up in the '70s, watching men coming back from Vietnam, being dumped into my housing project with broken minds, broken bodies, horrible drug and alcohol problems, and nobody helped them. And one of the things I said from the start is, if we're going to get into these wars, if we're going to do this stuff, we can never allow that to happen again. And what I want in Congress is I want somebody who's going to stand up for those people and say, you know what? We did this to these people. We need to help them every step of the way to get what we told them we were going to give them. And Kevin McCarthy, in my view, I may be wrong, but in my view, he ain't the guy to do it.
Well, I'll tell you something. 10 years ago, Kevin McCarthy promised the veterans in this district that he was going to build a brand new VA clinic, not a hospital, a clinic, brand new clinic. This was 10 years ago. It's now 10 years later, still no new clinic. So this guy makes promises, like he does every day on Twitter. I mean, this guy it's shameful that like a district like this where, there's a lot of hardworking middle-class people here. This guy does nothing for this district. I mean, besides veterans who he basically just lied to for a decade, he hasn't held a town hall in 12 years. He voted against every kind of, bill that popped up, from the American Rescue Plan, you name it, anything that would have brought jobs and money into this district, he voted against. And the only reason he voted against it is because the Democrats proposed these bills. That's it. So he'll do anything to just be the opposer, to defend terrorists, to ignore his members who are all, half of them are QAnon believers and all this nonsense. It's crazy. I don't get it, man. I'm a little older than you. I turned 60 this year, and a representative should represent the people in his district, and this guy does nothing for his district. This district, I'll just tell you a couple quick stats. He talks about all these other cities like Chicago, New York, like Bakersfield, his hometown, which is where I am right now. Bakersfield has averaged a murder a day for the past, I think it's the past 92 days. The highest homicide rate in California for 3 straight years. Unemployment rate 2 points higher than the rest of the state. Vaccination rates 38%. This guy's a joke. I mean, he doesn't, you would think a vaccination rate of 38%, seeing people in hospitals and dying, that you would make a PSA to say, hey, save your family, save your lives, go get vaccinated. Nothing. This guy doesn't. He's down at Mar-a-Lago getting his friggin' marching orders from that other piece of garbage. It's shameful, man.
And this is why, again, I keep coming back to our elite politicians have lost touch with the average everyday working people. And look, I'm not someone who believes in term limits. I think we, the voters, have the ultimate term limit. And when we need to throw the bums out, we do that. And we elect people who have our values. So, when you're out talking to people, because I'm sure the campaign is just beginning. So when you're out talking to people, do they get this? Are they seeing the kind of things that you're talking about?
Oh yeah. Oh no. People. I'm telling you, people around here. It's a very red district. Don't get me wrong. We're going through some redistricting right now. So everything points to it turning bluer. But the people I speak to, they all wonder, like, what is this guy doing? We almost lost our country, as you know, January 6th. I mean, if things would have went slightly different on that day, if those cops maybe would have retreated, and who knows what would have happened. Maybe they would have killed, God forbid, Nancy Pelosi or a couple other Democratic senators or congresspeople. Do you think Kevin McCarthy would have got up and said, hey, this is wrong? No, Donald Trump would have been president right now. Yeah. And this guy would have said nothing about it, man. This guy he's bad. He's bad news. His whole party is bad news. They're chaos. They're radical. They're just, sometimes I am at a loss for words.
No, and I'm with you. I mean, because, you're a couple years older than I am, but I could have never imagined what we saw on January 6th. I mean, in my wild, I knew things were going to be bad during the Trump years, and I said it on Inauguration Day 2017. This is going to be the worst administration in history, the most corrupt, the most graft, the most chaotic, all of those things. I never in a million years said that there was going to be a coup attempt and the president was going to be a part of it. And we now know that is a big part of it. And not just the president, but people like McCarthy who were involved in this stuff.
Exactly. He was on Fox News. I mean, after the election, which was probably the most fair election we've had, in the longest time, he was on Fox News like nightly telling people, your votes were stolen. Donald Trump is really the president. So you fill people's heads with these lies night after night. I mean, Fox News does it every single day and night, constant 24/7. But a guy like McCarthy, who's supposed to be like the, minority leader, you would think there'd be some type of leadership or some kind of patriotism to the truth, integrity, honor. This guy has none of it, man. None. Zero.
No, I'm with you. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Bruno Amato. Bruno's running for Congress in California's 23rd congressional district against Kevin McCarthy. You want to check out his website, brunoforcongress.com. We'll get links out on social media. So the question I've got for you, Bruno, is because look, I look at someone like McCarthy as one of the people who has to go. How do we help? How do people help Bruno Amato move forward and take on someone like McCarthy, who has access to unlimited resources, has the power of his position, and a really a corporate Republican Party that really has their messaging and a messaging machine like Fox News and AON and Newsmax and all that? How do folks help you?
Well, I hate to say it all comes down to money. I mean, money is a big part of it, of course. And this guy raises millions, and he's in the back pocket of big oil, pharma, the NRA. So yeah, this guy, I'm sure he could probably put a billboard on every corner if he ever wanted to. Not that he has to. I mean, because it's a red district. But I'll tell you this: like, we've put up billboards where we're spreading the word. I mean, to spread the word about that would help greatly. People just saying, hey, there's this guy out in California that's running against McCarthy. I'm trying to do my best to get the word out every day, whether it's on, social media, Twitter, Facebook. I got a great team behind me. We're raising money. I've been endorsed by some great people.
And you've got some really great ads. I hope folks will take a look at the stuff that you've put out. I think it's really good. I sense that you're like me. It's a hard time asking for people to make donations. I hope folks will make a donation to Bruno at brunoforcongress.com, because it does come down to money. And the hardest part of running a campaign, it comes down to dollars and cents. And I understand that as much as anyone. Last line of questioning I've got for you, because one of the things that you got to have a platform. I mean, we've got to figure out how we make working class lives better, because we're in the position we are in now because of deindustrialization and union busting and all of the things that Reaganomics and neoliberalism brought us. For us, we got to go back on that stuff and rebuild which was once a very prosperous working class in this country. How do you do that?
Okay, well, like I was saying, I've been a worker my entire life. I joined the service at 17. I've been a union guy for decades. Like I said, I was a union iron worker. I've been a union working actor for the past 20 years. So my whole thing is get. I told you about the crime rate here. You stop crime and you get people working. Like that's a big thing. So my main platform is jobs. And, of course, if I were in Congress right now and that bill would have been put in front of me about, the American Rescue Plan. And I mean, of course, I would have voted yes on that. This guy votes no. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. Like, there's a lot. It's an oil industry here, but I think the future is green energy. So, I know that this district could the future is green energy. And I know that we can make a lot more jobs for people that are in that industry and transfer them over, transition to green jobs. There's so much solar, wind things already here. And it's the future. I mean, oil's not the future of this district. So, of course, he's not going to say that, but
no, investment is the future. I mean, we're going to, and this is why I'm such a big proponent of even the bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure plan, but more importantly, the $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan. We need those to reset the last 40 years of attacks on working people. And we need the jobs that come out of it, Bruno, because you're spot on. You want people to stop killing each other, give them hope and opportunity and a family sustaining job to where they can go to work, they can have dignity and respect, and they'll stop killing each other, it seems.
100%, man. You could put add 100,000 police officers on the street, but unless someone has something to live for, like and a job is one of the main things I think that gives someone dignity. So you start giving people jobs and good paying jobs and union jobs. I'll tell you, you'll see a big difference in this district and all over the country.
Again, the website, brunoforcongress.com. We'll get links out on social media. If you don't follow Bruno, make sure you do. Follow him on Twitter at Bruno Amato _1. We'll make sure we get that out so folks can follow along. I give you credit for stepping up and throwing your hat in the ring. It's a tough road to hoe. But I hope you'll come back and share some more thoughts with us as you continue down this road. And any way we can help, let me know. Thanks so much for having me, brother. I really appreciate it. And Union strong. Good stuff. Thank you, Bruno. Bruno Amato, brunoforcongress.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. And listen to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1949. That was the day that is remembered as Kemi Bloody Thursday in Finland. 2 strikers were killed. Kemi is a lumber town in northern Finland. The lumber workers in the area went out on strike when the government proposed slashing their wages by more than 30%. The strike was soon joined by sawmill and dock workers. The walkout caused a massive logjam on the Kemijoki River. On the fateful day, 3,000 strikers engaged in a peaceful march. They encountered armed police and a confrontation ensued. Police had guns on their side. The workers only had sticks and stones. 1 striker was shot and killed. Another was hit by a truck. Finnish army troops were called into Kemi. 32 strike leaders were arrested. In response to the violence, sympathy strikes were called by other unions, including the Seamen's Union. These strikes were seen by many as a fight between the Finnish elected government and communists in the nation's trade unions. Officials in the United States worried the strikes were an attempt by the communists to open the door to intervention in Finland by the Soviet Union. After World War II, Cold War politics shaped responses to labor struggles in many nations. A song, Fly Black Winged Bird, remembers the fallen workers. The lyrics, translated into English, began, Fly Black Winged Bird with blood on your feathers across the lands. From village to village, carry your message. Open up autumn sky for the sad news to spread. Shame on a country where an unarmed man gets shot. Shame on the one who calls the shots.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So on Monday, the United Steelworkers kicked off their We Supply America bus tour. They kicked off in Burns Harbor, Indiana, went all the way across Ohio into Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, all talking about, hey, we need to build things here. We need to manufacture stuff. If we're going to rebuild our country, if we're going to build back better, we got to do it with American products and American workers. And here to share some thoughts and highlight this We Supply America bus tour, I've asked Roxanne Brown to come talk with us. Roxanne's an international vice president there with the United Steelworkers. Roxanne, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks, Rick. It's great to be with you.
So why kick off in Burns Harbor, Indiana? I don't think most people can find Burns Harbor, Indiana. What's there?
Well, what's there is local 6787, where we have steelworker members every single day working at Cleveland Cliffs, making the steel that goes into a lot of our infrastructure systems. Beyond our infrastructure systems, that steel also goes into some of our weapon systems as well. But this campaign is about how steelworker members supply America. And we thought the best place for us to kick that off would be at the House of Steel at 6787 Cleveland Cliffs in Indiana. And it was a great event.
No, I saw the video, and I saw Secretary Walsh, Department of Labor Secretary Walsh speak. I saw, the Congressman Marvin speak. My good friend Scott Paul spoke there as well. It was a well-received event. Lots of people, good crowd of workers, and people looking proud of the products that they make. And I think we should be doing a lot more of this. I'm glad you guys are doing this, but this is something we should be doing all the time, highlighting the fact that our workers make some of the best products in the world.
Absolutely. And, and that's, I've been saying that this campaign and what we called it, We Supply America, is a bit of a battle cry, to be honest. I think oftentimes when people think about infrastructure, because that's really what we're talking about with this campaign, they think about the folks who build the bridges and the roads and such, which is just as important, but they forget about the supply chain and the people who are supplying the parts and the components that go into these systems, our infrastructure systems. And so this is really our battle cry, that steelworker members across the country, including in Burns Harbor, provide the products and the components, whether it's steel, cement, brick, rubber, glass, chemicals, because coatings is a thing. All of these parts supply all of these systems that are so critical, that help to run a nation. We supply America. It's our battle cry right now.
Absolutely. And not just, supply the things we need, but maintain communities with good paying jobs that allow a community to thrive. And when the factory closes, we know what happens. Opioid addiction goes up, poverty goes up, all of the horrible things. So for me, the idea of reinvesting in manufacturing, reinvesting in our supply chain, which has been, you look at what's happened over this pandemic, it's been magnified how broken our supply chain is. This is the exact time we need to be talking about this.
Exactly. And to that point, today was stop number 4 for us in Danville, Virginia, and we were at local 831L, which is a Goodyear local. And our folks at that facility make bus, truck, and aviation tires. So that's our transportation infrastructure. But to your point about how these jobs and these facilities sustain a community, Goodyear is the largest private employer in Danville, Virginia. If that facility were to be not there anymore, it would be devastated. The jobs that sustain not just the families, but help to lend to the tax base in that community, to help to make sure that there are schools and libraries and hospitals, it would be gone. And so, you know, we want to make sure that what we do with this campaign is to help push what's happening in Washington over the finish line, so that that type of investment that you just mentioned is happening and continues to happen in facilities like Goodyear and US Steel and Cleveland Cliffs and Corning and other facilities where USW members work around this country every day.
No, I mean, you know, my entire life, you know, we've always kind of puffed up our chest a little bit and say, you know, we're the global leader in manufacturing. In fact, if you ever been to Trenton, New Jersey, there's a bridge there in Trenton that says Trenton makes, the world takes. Sadly, that I can't say that definitively as we once could in the past, because we've allowed companies to move overseas or to China or wherever. And this infrastructure bill for me is an opportunity, I think, to kind of maybe reset some of that. The fact that Joe Biden has said we have to have very strong Buy American provisions, and we're going to rebuild our country with American-made products that are going to create American jobs, seems to me to be kind of a reset to move us back towards, well, you know, what my grandparents' generation built, the most prosperous working class in the history of civilization.
I totally agree. And just so you know, Rick, I'm a New Yorker. I'm from New York, so I know that bridge in Trenton well. And it really does capture a lot of what we've seen across our sectors in the steelworkers. You know, unfortunately, we've become intimately aware and well versed in trade policy because we've had to use our trade policies to help ensure that there's a level playing field for our workers and their industries over the years. And you're right that, you know, this $1.2 trillion infrastructure package for physical infrastructure is a huge, once in a generation, really, investment in infrastructure with $600 million of new spending. That's huge. That's something that we've been calling for a long time.
Decades.
Infrastructure.
Decades, Rox. You know,
Decades.
I've been saying it for the last couple of days. It was 14 years ago that the I-35 bridge collapsed. And it was a decade before that we were talking about we need to invest in infrastructure. So while $1.2 trillion sounds like a lot of money, the fact that we've neglected our infrastructure this long means that it's really not. And we need considerably higher. In fact, you know this as well as anyone. The American Society of Civil Engineers puts that price tag somewhere around, if I'm not mistaken, 4.6 trillion, not 1.2, exactly, but 4.6 trillion. And that's just to get to about a B minus, not even to the A grade.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. Infrastructure has been the meat that Congress has left on the table for decades, as you say. And so that's why we have this campaign, We Supply America, to really try to, again, push as much as possible and support this effort that is working its way through Congress, not just the $1.2 trillion package, but that $3.5 trillion package for the social and human infrastructure that is just behind it, because it's not just about making the things, it's about the people who support a nation. You know, you mentioned the pandemic. We're still in this 18-month period. We saw what happened when we have a social and human system that is not supported, that system cannot effectively support a nation. And so these two packages together, for us, critical to get over the finish line, necessary for the American public, necessary for American workers, necessary for American industry, and necessary for American communities.
No, something we most certainly need. And over the next couple of days, you're going to be traveling around. At Friday, you're going to end up in Pittsburgh. Tomorrow, you're going to end up Thursday in North Carolina. If people want to follow along, see where you've been, what you're talking about, uswvoices.org is the website. uswvoices.org, the website. Now you're doing this to raise awareness, and that's great. We need that to happen. What are you hoping comes out of this? You know, we're going to have these great events, and I'm a big fan of events. I'm a big fan of bus tours and all of that stuff. But what are we hoping to gain on the other side come Monday when people go back to work and the bus has been parked? What are we hoping to grab?
think a couple of things. A big part of this campaign is education. Whenever you do a bus tour or anything like that, it's about education. And again, on the first piece, the education is for policymakers so that they can make a very clear connection to steelworker jobs. I'll say USW jobs and infrastructure, because oftentimes when people think of our union, they really just think about steel because that's our name. But
But
we
you
really
represent nurses. You
we represent
everybody.
nurses. We represent school bus drivers. We represent folks at American Water. We represent folks at National Grid. So it's not just the components and the things that are going into these systems that I talked about, but it's the folks who are servicing these systems too that we represent. And so this is an education about the full scope of the steelworkers. I've been saying it's our commercial for our union about all of the work that steelworker members do every day. So the first piece is hoping that policymakers make the connection to how many jobs are connected to this bill so that they see that it has to get done. Secondly, we want our members to know when they hear infrastructure, when they hear policymakers talking about this bill, when they hear you, Rick, or others in the news talking about this bill, that they know that it's their jobs that are being discussed. And third, we want victory. Come fall, we want to be one of the ground troops that help to secure victory and make sure that we have both of these bills passed and ultimately signed by President Biden.
No, and we desperately need it. And not just from the political side. I mean, the political side, the Democrats do absolutely need this to pass if they're going to be competitive in 2022. But as a country, we desperately need this. For years I've been saying, someone should do an app for people's phone that every time they go over a structurally deficient bridge, it sends a notification saying, "Hey, call mom. You might not make it to the other side."
Right.
But and I made that joke 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're in this moment where we desperately need it. So let me ask you, as someone who pays a lot of attention to this, what do you think the chances of both bills passing? Do you see maybe one or the other or both? How do you see the jockeying of getting this through happening?
I will say a lot depends on what happens now that the Senate bill has gone over to the House. I think Speaker Pelosi has been pretty clear about the path forward that she wants for these bills, that she will not move one without the other. And again, it's because she recognizes how critically important each of these pieces are. We never thought about social infrastructure before COVID. Never thought about it because we never had to think about it. We only thought about the physical infrastructure, like you said, the bridges that are deficient, the dams, the locks, all of these things, the rivers that need to be we never thought about the social infrastructure. We can't not think about it now.
Well,
so I think because of that, it's clear that both of them have to move. And so I have a lot of faith in the speaker. She's tough.
Yeah, I hope both of them. I hope they do both move because we desperately need them. But I might push back a little bit on the fact that we never thought about social infrastructure. I think we did. I mean, I grew up politically during the Reagan years, and the construct of anyone getting help through the social compact, the welfare queen and the poor small family farmer who lost his farm because of the estate tax. We did focus on social infrastructure, but we were focused on destroying it.
That's right.
It's now when more people actually needed it and realized how insufficient it really is that now I think we have a different viewpoint, and I think it's a good thing.
I agree. I definitely agree. I like your nuance there. And I think the same thing applies to the supply chain, because the supply chain and the loss of domestic manufacturing is something that our union has been talking about since the 80s. But again, this period when we saw that we didn't domestically have the PPE to help our nurses and our doctors, Americans had an aha moment that, holy crap, we've sold our industries to other nations. We make nothing here.
That's it.
So I think this whole period has been an awakening. And I think it's been a rejiggering of the way that we think about these concepts of social infrastructure and supply chains and the need for them. So, I think the pressure that we're still in, because now we all thought that we were emerging from this thing. Now we're in a new phase with Delta. I think that will put additional pressure to make both of these bills actually move through Congress. And so we'll see. You know, they'll be back in the fall. They'll be back in a couple of weeks here in September. We'll see what happens. You know, but I think we have a lot of hope that this process will work its way through, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it happens.
Yeah, hope but fight. Last question I've got for you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Will parts of the PRO Act be in this infrastructure? Is it going to remain there? I know they can only do probably some economic parts, but we desperately need people to be able to join and form unions, because I think there's an aha moment here for working people right now, that they saw how vulnerable they were. That now maybe this is the time that we see an explosion of organizing and people joining and forming unions, if only we had laws that were helpful.
I think it remains to be seen. You know, I think there certainly is a massive campaign that the AFL-CIO was engaged in, and, you know, to his credit, and God rest his soul, Rich Trumka, I mean, was the champion of the PRO Act and pushing the PRO Act as hard as we possibly can, and you know, through Congress, and ultimately hopefully getting it signed into law. We'll see. I think it remains to be seen how this process unfolds, but I do think it's telling that this administration included it in the American Jobs Plan, which was this administration's infrastructure plan. Yeah. That it said that the right to organize is a critical piece of this nation's infrastructure. It meant that family sustaining jobs are a critical piece of this nation's infrastructure. And so, you know, we join with our brothers and sisters in labor to continue to ask Congress to include it in this package. And I think it remains to be seen what happens.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I've been pushing as much as I can, because I do see that if we could get some reform, and I don't think we're going to get everything in the PRO Act, but at least something that's going to help a little bit, that it's going to give us a fighting chance. Sadly, if we don't, I fear if nothing comes of it, this opportunity may pass, and we may be, well, we may be left behind. And that's the thing that's concerning me, is as much of a pro-union president as Joe Biden is, and I love that fact about him, if we don't change the laws, it's going to be very difficult for us.
We 1,000% agree with you, Rick.
But again, I hope folks will check the website. Make sure you follow the bus tour, the We Supply America bus tour done by the United Steelworkers. Go to uswvoices.org. We'll get links out on social media on how you can follow along. Roxanne, I appreciate you taking some time for us. Always great stuff you guys do. Get out there and keep spreading the word, and solidarity to your members.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thanks for having me on. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks so much. Again, Roxanne Brown, International Vice President of the U.S. Steelworkers, uswvoices.org, the website. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. The talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1927. That was the day that a new radio station began to broadcast on the New York dial. The station's call letters were WEVD. It stood for Eugene V. Debs. The radio station was founded to honor the recently deceased socialist and labor leader. Its goal was to provide a forum to discuss the causes Debs had fought a lifetime for. Progressive labor leaders were involved in the project. The International Lady Garment Workers Union donated space for the studio. Sidney Hillman of the Amalgamated Clothing Workers served on the board. So did A. Philip Randolph of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. The station's programming included a show called The Pullman Porter's Hour. It also ran a popular Yiddish language program, The Forward Hour, named after a Yiddish newspaper of the same name. The station provided space for liberal and labor voices that was not available on the commercial radio dial. In 1928, the station had to stave off the Federal Radio Commission to avoid being shut down. The FRC wanted to close down multiple small stations it argued were clogging the airwaves. In 1932, the Forward took over operation of the station. In 2003, the station was bought by ESPN, and its call letters were changed. The radio remains an important forum for the U.S. labor movement. When mainstream media often ignores important labor news, the radio is a place to hear in-depth coverage of issues impacting working people. This includes the friendly voice of Labor History in 2 at The Rick Smith Show. So, the next time you're driving somewhere, spin the dial and see if you can find the voices of labor.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Tick, tick, tick. Each sweep of Big Tech's clock enhances corporate power, but his hands also sweep away more of our civil rights. At first, each new surge of artificial intelligence and robotic technologies can seem perfectly benign, even playful. Take Spot, the robotic four-legged doggy that actually has no spots, no endearing puppy eyes, can't bark, has no tail to wag, and is very undoggy. In fact, this electronic critter is rather creepily nightmarish, but it's marketed by cute videos, including one of Spot mixing margaritas. Admit it, that beats training your real dog to bring your slippers to you. But you can't just adopt a Spot at your local animal shelter. Each artificial canine, manufactured by Boston Dynamics, which is owned by Korean auto giant Hyundai Motor Company, sells for about $75,000. So who's buying them? Mainly such big corporate outfits as oil refineries, mining operations, and electric utilities that want an unblinking eye to monitor and record workers, visitors, protesters, and all others who approach their facilities. Just one more layer of our cycloptic surveillance society. But the point at which Spot loses all cuteness and turns into a menacing beast of authoritarianism is when it's turned into a police dog. There's been quite a public backlash, for example, against the Honolulu Police Department for deploying one of the robotic canines in a tent city for homeless people. In addition to outrage at the obvious class bias in sicking Spot on the homeless, the public outcry grew hotter when it was revealed that the police had used federal pandemic relief funds to buy their Spot. Corporate and government officials assure us that this latest tech marvel won't be used to spy on innocent people, be weaponized, or otherwise bite us on the butt. Trust us, they say. This is Jim Hightower saying no. The Hightower Radio Lowdown is brought to you by the Lowdown Happy Hour, live streamed from the Chat and Chew Cafe. Details at hightowerlowdown.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it wasn't enough for Lauren Boebert to say the Taliban's building back better, which is, I got to tell you, one of the most disgraceful things. I mean, it's even too low for her. And I don't think there's a bottom with how low that she'll go. I think that one's even lower. But interestingly enough, federal officials are looking at Boebert for apparently using campaign funds for personal use. And my first thought was, you know, I don't know if they're using campaign funds for personal stuff. They're too busy doing insider trading stuff. That campaign stuff, just a little, that's just nothing. It's all that insider trading and lining their pockets elsewhere. But it'll be interesting to see if she was dumb enough to take campaign funds and use it for her own personal whatever. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on where we are, what's going on, and maybe how this whole situation in Afghanistan plays out over the next couple of months. I've asked our good friend Scott Dworkin to come talk with us. Scott is the co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also the host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
I'm not great, but I'm okay. I'm looking at what's going on in Afghanistan and going, look, like everybody else, it's tragic, it's horrible, but it had to be done. We had to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what we don't know yet, and that's what I keep reminding myself is we don't know. We do know that the troops were outnumbered, and we had to get them the heck out of there quickly, and it was set up in a way. I don't like playing the blame game, but Trump set it up in a way for it was meant to fail. and did things after his presidency he knew it was over to help set up his failure. Russia isn't helping us either in that respect. They're helping the Taliban. So I think things might be a little bit different right now. But like anything else, we need to wait for the smoke to clear and go from there. Taking, 2 images of videos that are absolutely terrible should not be everything. There's a lot of amazing things going on there, a lot of people risking their lives to get people out of there. And they're doing everything they can. And, the one thing is I'm very glad that it's the Biden administration, even though there's been some fumbles. I'm thankful that it's the Biden administration, not the Trump administration, getting people out of there, because I have a feeling that the lazy people who don't care about people, a lot more people would die in this instance, if any, do now. But I think that we're, as things are, there were mistakes made, there was bad intelligence, something happened along the way, and I think we'll get to the truth eventually. But it's not the biggest scandal of all time.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, and look, and I don't blame Joe Biden for this. Like you said, there was a couple of stumbles. Maybe we could have done something a little bit differently. I don't even so much blame Trump. I blame everybody. This has been 20 years of bad policy, bad decision making, no oversight, and a media structure that didn't bother paying attention to what was right in front of them, other than cheerleading and taking money from corporate America and these defense contractors who have basically bought the trough and shoved their nose in as deep as they can get in it. So for me, that's the problem. Everything, all of them. I want investigations into how we got here. I don't give a tinker's damn about what happened the other day. And the Democrats, in my view, and you can disagree, we're gonna have an investigation into the end of this debacle. Why the hell aren't we figuring out how we got into this mess and hold those people accountable?
I think that's where it leads to. Right now people are just throwing around barbs and tweets, and it doesn't help. One of the reasons I've been careful about tweets is I recognize the reach that I have on Twitter and elsewhere online. And I don't want to point out, hey, help save these people here. Come to donate money to this, because it pinpoints people. So I've been doing a lot of work offline. And so I think people need to recognize these people are doing work constantly offline. And we're not seeing everything that's been done. And I know that the work is being done, on the broad basis of everything. Again, I don't know what kind of threats they got that day. I don't know exactly what they faced, and I don't think that's going to be revealed anytime soon. But I do know they got out of there quick. And so it wasn't, I don't know if there was groups moving in, if they were just fairly outnumbered by far. I mean, there's a lot of different things to be going on, and I've criticized different things before, and I do it too quickly in regards to military action. And you always got to wait. You got to wait a little bit and not jump on it. What I really don't like is I don't like seditionists and insurrectionists who don't care about our capital being attacked, and then they act like they care about the Afghanistan or people in Afghanistan or people that worked with us in Afghanistan. But they don't want them to come here. You know what I mean? Then they bring out their racist tendencies and all the hate and negativity. So they go back and forth, and they just want to scream and yell. And I just don't know who they're screaming and yelling for or at, because every American that I've spoken with is happy that we're getting out of there. They aren't really happy about how it goes about, but none of this was going to be pretty. None of it was going to be smooth. And it definitely wasn't going to be perfect, because again, it's a military action. So getting out of a place is not going to be clean. And keep in mind, there's other countries that want to have videos playing constantly that make us look terrible. And there are people saving lives. There's still Americans there that are saving lives right now. And we need to watch out for them. We need to not paint them as enemies, because they need our support right now. And so if you are criticizing them out there for no reason and you're not offering any ideas, then you need to sit down and be quiet, because this is not the time for that. It's going to be people's lives in danger.
Yeah, I mean, of all of this, and again, Lauren Boebert seems to rise to the top of of the septic pond when these things happen. Today 1776 on her January 6th tweet. This latest tweet of the Taliban is building back better. I find that quite disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a traitor would say. That's what a Taliban supporter would say. I believe she's both at this point, because it's the only thing I can, derive from everything she said. Obviously, as you had mentioned, federal officials have already investigated her, and they're questioning her about use of personal use of funds, campaign funds. And then also, it just came out that during the campaign, Boebert didn't disclose her husband's income from an energy firm, and I believe that it was almost $500,000. So it's a total of $478,000 last year. And so you have this, when you see someone that's, stinks of corruption, you're going to find it. They're going to get caught. If you're a public official, you're not going to get away with it. And I think, all these stories starting to come out. She's criticizing everything in Afghanistan, but didn't she vote against visas for Afghans who helped us over there? She was one of the 16 Republicans. No Democrats voted against that. Where were they when they were trying to help them? We've been trying to get people out for years, and so it's just it sucks when you have people that are corrupt trying to make us look terrible and trying to criticize us just so that I say every day, I'm like, I wonder what Republicans are going to be absolutely furious about tomorrow, because they haven't decided yet.
Because that's how they raise their money, Scott. They need that rage machine. They need people angry. They need grievance. They need people who are just ready to foam at the mouth, and of course dig into their wallet and send money, because that's what they do. That's what they're good at. They're not good at governing. They're good at this kind of rage reality TV nonsense. We should get them out of Congress and out of political office. But it's getting worse, Scott. I mean, I'm sure you've paid attention to these school board meetings across the country, where these zombie Karens, the illegitimate spawn of the Tea Party, has now found the local school board meeting, and they're screaming and carrying on over their kids' masks. All of a sudden, people who couldn't do fifth grade math, they're now epidemiologists. They've now figured out virology. I mean, it's crazy. But this seems to me to be all part of a game plan to destabilize us, to keep us constantly in a rage mode and constantly in turmoil. Not good for a country, Scott.
No, we're investigating the groups that are behind this, because you can see that they have printed signs. You can see that they're organized. You can see that they have team leaders when they're out there. Obviously, it's probably branches of the Republican Party that are out there. I know that there's other right-wing kind of religious groups that have come out to those things. Luckily, we have people like Justin Canoe, who came out and spoke in Tennessee, just being like, my daughter, who's a child, she understands why she needs to wear a mask, because it helps other people. And it didn't take any other questions or any, it was just so simple for her. So if she can understand, I'm not sure why other people can't understand that they're acting like the children, and the children are the ones who understand. I mean, I was with an 11-year-old today, talking to him, and he was like, no, I don't mind wearing the mask or whatever. I just, I'd like to be around my friends and stuff, but I don't want to make anyone sick.
Yep.
And it's just there's humanity that's in this, and then there's people who are inhumane jerks that just want to get that money in so that they can run for higher office or give money to elect more QAnon crazies. There's no end to this. You're right. I think we have to look back at how we got here, and one of those reasons is the feed that would be Fox News that led to OAN and the rise of Newsmax and other outlets, and now even more dangerously so, right-wing online punditry that is not monitored, that is not filtered really extensively. There are some groups that kind of analyze those videos, but they have these fake news networks, and like Steve Bannon is on a channel now that's online, and so you have these online channels are going to be our new place that we're going to have to our internet battle per se. But we've luckily been winning a lot of different battles in this online war now. For example, they took down a dozen, 36 total accounts, but the 12 accounts the White House had pointed out that represented a lot of the COVID misinformation were all removed from Facebook. But like, why did it take them so long to remove posts about how the vaccine is ineffective and how chips can be injected? You see what I'm saying? Like, don't type that, Carol, because I don't want you to get in trouble on Twitter. But like, it definitely, it's just, it's tragic. And I think that I don't know what it takes for people to recognize. Maybe it's the mortuary trucks that are being, driven into Texas right now. Death is usually the ultimate catalyst in regards to people recognizing, oh my God, like that person drank the juice and that person's dead. I don't want to do that. Like, and some of them already are too far gone. But like, I think we're at a tipping point where it's just, they can't lie to themselves anymore because it's right in front of their faces.
Yeah, it's interesting, because today Bloomberg reporter Steve Dennis pointed out that today the number of deaths topped 1,000 today. And we're again, the people who have done models, and I have a listener who sends me stuff all the time because he's been spot on. He's saying that it's only going to get worse from here. Hold on, because we're at the beginning of it, and not all of us are going to get the Regeneron, and not all of us are going to get the monoclonal antibody like Governor Abbott, who, interestingly enough, he got COVID, he had a vaccine, and just in case, they give him this monoclonal antibody just in case. Well, he was at an event with a whole bunch of old people at a Republican event. How many of those people got just in case? How many people did he infect there? And, at some point I go, I don't actually care. And I know it's bad for my soul to not.
No, it may drain your soul if you do too much. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to take self-care. I think that a lot of people may recognize, oh, well, we're vaccinated. I mean, this can get much worse. It can get worse than ever before. And I think people need to recognize that, if this thing mutates again, this could mutate in a way that, from epidemiologists I've spoken with, this can mutate in a way that can be very lethal to people. This can, especially children. So we need to be really careful about what we do. If we don't squash this, it will manipulate itself. Not only that, but we're going to enter flu season pretty soon, and then imagine all the hospitals being full and people with heart attacks, stabbings, and shootings, and anything else that's an emergency of nature. They're filling up the hospital beds. So it's not just as simple as, oh, some people are going to get COVID, because there's going to be other types of COVID that already are being found across the world. But they're going to spread like a wildfire, and we won't be prepared for it. And so, some people are going to be too far gone at that point, because we'll be 4 shots in or 3 shots in at that point. And then other people will have to play catch up. But, I'm not sure if it would be at that point right. But we still have children who are unvaccinated, millions of children who are unvaccinated in this country. And if you care about children, you have to get vaccinated. If you hate children and you want them to get sick and die, then you don't get vaccinated. It's very simple. There's right and wrong here, Rick. And so there's an information diet of there's only so much you can take. Of the negative news of these people who are just willing to walk off a cliff. It's suicidal, and it really is mentally deranged. Like, you have to look at it as these are people who are very, very sick already in the head. Yeah. And they've been infected by the Fox virus.
And that's an excellent point. But here's the thing, and this is where I kind of want to go with this, because while we focus on the insane, while we focus on these crazy people who as I said, the illegitimate spawn of the Tea Party, these zombie Karens who show up to these school board meetings, and all these people who are just rabid all the time. There are people out there trying to do the right thing. There are the people in our hospitals who are taking care of these people and being mocked for it by the people that they're actually taking care of. I'd like that we spend time talking about the good things so that maybe it does cleanse the soul a little bit to go, you know what? It's not all bad.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, don't harass medical people, like people in the medical profession right now. Don't stand in their way. Don't try to block entrances at hospitals. But I mean, like, I have people that have been on the front lines every single day, 16, 18-hour days. One of my friends was pregnant at the beginning of COVID. And now she's had her baby and she's got another kid as well. And she works at NYU. And it's just it's crazy to me that doctors like her are able to press on and just move forward. I mean, nurses saved my life, and I know some nurses that just are still, like, given everything that's going on right now, given the negligence by the politicians, given the negligence by immature adults that are infected with this kind of fox virus, they still believe in humanity and they believe in saving you. And guess what? They don't ask when they have you on a gurney or when you're sitting in the hospital bed. They don't ask, have you been watching Fox News? Have you been doing? Because they don't care about that. They just care about you as a human. And that's the thing that people don't seem to get, is they think that me, who's one of the biggest pusher of vaccines in the world, like I understand that, but it's not some kind of game. It's not for Joe Biden. It's not for Democrats. It is for humanity. I want you to get vaccinated because I don't want you to get sick and die, whether you wear a red hat or not. And sometimes, it's good to just take a break from all the news and all the garbage going on in the world, and maybe even seek out some kind of positive news in the world. Because given even with COVID, with Afghanistan, with whatever, there are positive news stories that you can see, and you got to have that hope. You got to have that light. You can't just have the negativity. And that, I mean, I'm one of the purveyors of the negativity because I got to present the truth. But I really want to, I hope that we can change that and at least mix it up. But yeah, you can't just focus on the negative. There are some beautiful things going on. There are people saving lives that that should not be able to work at this point because they've been so taxed and so beaten at this point. It's amazing to see what some human beings can do. It's proof that some heroes, they wear lab coats. Some heroes, they wear scrubs. And instead of capes. And so I'm inspired by that, and that helps me keep going because I don't work in a hospital, And so if you don't work in a hospital, then you're probably in a better place than those folks are at the moment.
Yeah, as you were talking, I remember a doctor that I had here on the program a while ago, Jewish doctor, African American nurse, and an Asian anesthesiologist. And it sounds like a bad racist joke, but they were, he wrote a long tweet on a guy came in his 50s with Nazi tattoos and, swastikas all over, tattooed all over his body, begging them to help him. And they did. And, that to me is, I told the guy, I said, I don't know how you did it. I don't know that I would hope I would, but I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Kremlin Annex, which is the thing that we set up, Adam Parkhomenko and others set up outside the White House to after the Treason Summit, protests every night. And there was a time where a dude wearing a red hat fell on the ground, and I don't know, naturally went down, and I was like, oh, dude, and I helped him up. And I'm like, I'm not the best friend of anyone who wears a red hat by far. But we're human beings, and I think this is not a game. This is real life. People are dying. People are gonna die. More people are gonna die. The only answer is vaccination. There is no other answer. And if you're not taking part, then you're taking part in the murder. And that's what you're doing. You're killing people. And I think That's what stinks about it, is it's so serious. It's life or death. It's right or wrong. It's not opinionated. Like, you can't say, I have this opinion about masks. No, you wear masks. Like, that's the answer. There is no other answer. Anyone who else who differs from that should not have a platform anywhere in the world, ever, in any way. Same thing with vaccine disinformation. There's a time for you to question, oh, I'm not sure about this vaccine, or this is not the time for that. Anyone who talks about doubting the vaccine or its efficacy should be banned from all social media, at least for now, if not forever. I believe forever. And this is the problem that we have. People need to be made examples of in regards to, there need to be consequences in regards to legal action and otherwise. I do know that there's a lot of families that have lost loved ones who directly attribute Fox News for their deaths of COVID. And, you know, one of them is a friend, Kristen Urquiza, who runs March by COVID. Her dad died of COVID, and, you know, he was like, I'll be fine. You know, I'm gonna, like, I was watching Trump, I was watching Fox News, like, I saw this stuff, like, we're gonna be fine. You know, I trust our president. And like, this was repetitive. He was a great guy, like a great human being. She had mentioned that he would go, he's the guy that you call if you need something moved, and he doesn't even know you. He goes and he shows up, he gets other people to show up. He was that kind of guy, and he died of it. And so I know that there's going to be people who face legal consequences and financial consequences, especially at Fox News, in lawsuits and other ways. But this is not a right, like two opinions. This is right and wrong. This is good versus evil, and we need to recognize that. And we definitely, I think you're right about this, is we need to maybe spotlight these positive things so that we can counteract it, because maybe some of these folks don't have any hope because all they see is turmoil. All they're presented with is this negative stuff. And I bet some of them are starving for something positive, truly positive, that just is universally positive. And so sharing stories like that, when possible, might be a good idea for all of us.
Yeah, because we need it. I mean, at some point, there's got to be something that unites people. I used to believe there were things that were universally decent, like helping someone up, regardless of what hat they were wearing. But we're just in this time where every issue is polarized, and I keep coming back to this same frame. Every issue is polarized, and the people at the top keep making money. So as we're fighting each other, as we're on each side of this divide, and we're at each other's throats, the 1% keep robbing us blind and filling their coffers at the expense of us by not getting health care and education and this infrastructure bill that we desperately need. You know, all this stuff.
Yeah, and you know, there's champions like Peter Morley, who's pushed Healthcare Awareness Month, and I know Chairwoman Maloney has now presented a bill that will make August Healthcare Awareness Month. And so it's great advocates like that who are fighting for people and saving lives and keeping as positive as they possibly can. Peter Morley is one of the most positive human beings I've ever met.
Yep.
He's one of my best friends, a great human being, a hero and a champion. And so Healthcare Awareness Month has been something that he's championed for forever. And finally, they're passing something. And so there are examples of bright lights. And I try to feed off of these folks, especially when I have to go into the dark, when I have to go and investigate different people. Like, do you think that I wanted to sit there and watch hundreds of hours of Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of her videos that she's ever posted, every interview she's ever had of any kind? I didn't, but I also wanted to make sure that she was exposed for the fraud that she was and the traitor that she is. And so I think it really is important for us to though have those friendships and make sure that we lift people up who deserve to be lifted up, instead of just fighting folks. And now I know, as a person who got angry this morning and tweets out ban Marge a couple of times and then it trends number 2 in the country, like there are some fights that we need to have peaceful fights in regards to online, that we need to confront people head on. But then there are times where we can lift champions and heroes up that are saving lives, like Peter Morley, like my doctor friend who is at NYU, like Dr. Ding, like Dr. Joseph Sakharin, like Dr. Rob Davidson, people who are on the front lines every single day fighting for people. And they're not choosing sides in regards to who is what. You have Dr. Sakharin, who's been shot before, a gunshot victim, and he works at Johns Hopkins Hospital. And he saves lives of people that of every ethnicity, it doesn't matter to him. A human being is a human being, and he's going to help them no matter who they are. And like, how can you not stop and think like that? Like that is true humanity. And I think we've lost it. We have lost that humanity. And that was part of the Trump virus, is he has taken that humanity away. He turned it into a wrestling match. It's all WWE. I mean, one of the commentators, a Republican on local NPR, I was debating with the other day, and they're talking about rah, 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 rah. And I just sat there, impeach Biden, blah, blah, like all this other garbage just for no reason. And I'm like, you know what? What I appreciate about what you just said about impeaching and removing Biden or whatever thing that's never going to happen, what I appreciate about that is the fact that you're finally acknowledging that he is the president of the United States. So there are positive things, and he even laughed about that because it was just like, I didn't realize what I was doing there. But I think that's what we have to have. There's got to be more kind of Jon Stewart's and Dave Grohl's, and I'm sorry that I'm giving men, but there's got to be more Joy Reids and Rachel Maddow's and Rick Smiths out there, and calling truth out at the same time while trying to bring a sense of entertainment and reality to people, I think is so refreshing. And that's why we need people like you and the Rick Smith Show at a constant, because we can't survive without people like you calling people out. And also bringing a spotlight on people like Peter Morley and the doctors that you've spoken with, because they need a voice.
Yeah, no, I mean, Peter's a great guy. And with this being Healthcare Awareness Month, we got to get him back on here really soon. But important stuff. And I'm glad this is where we're going to end this, because, it sounds like in this moment, we can always be down and angry. But there is hope. There is a way forward. And I appreciate you taking time and sharing in that hope with me.
No, and I just say, please get vaccinated. It's not political. It's personal. I've had friends die of it. I've had family members die of it. I don't want you to die of it, no matter who you are.
Good stuff, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the time. Our good friend Scott Dworkin, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. Make sure you check out his podcast where podcasts are found. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
Waving the flag of freedom for people, not corporations. Rick Smith.
The earthquake could not have come at a worse time. Haiti is in the midst of a political crisis and is being threatened by a tropical storm which could bring heavy rains and mudslides to the already crippled nation.
Tropical depression Grace compounds disaster as Haiti reels from powerful earthquake. July 2021 was the hottest month ever recorded on planet Earth. Plus,
climate change science is telling us some really stark truths about the decline of water here in the western United States.
Federal government declares water shortage on the Colorado River for the first time ever.
All of those declarations and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
They passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. To put that into perspective, if you took 1.2 trillion $1 bills and laid them end to end, they'd make better roads than what we're driving on right now, which is why we need the bill.
This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, as if things weren't horrific enough in Haiti, now they're slammed by a tropical depression.
Indeed. On Saturday, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit western Haiti, still not fully recovered from the devastating 2010 earthquake, also struggling with the pandemic, gang violence, and political chaos after its president was assassinated last month. Now a tropical storm is plunging the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere even further into crisis. As we go to air, more than 1,400 people are confirmed dead, thousands more injured, tens of thousands rendered homeless and in immediate need of shelter, food, clean water, and medical care. The region is in desperate need of assistance, but compounding the devastation is Tropical Depression Grace. The storm's track is almost right over the epicenter of the earthquake and is forecast to dump as much as 15 inches of rain in some areas. This is a harrowing example of what emergency management experts call a compound disaster. Natural disasters hitting in quick succession, pushing government response and infrastructure resilience to the breaking point.
And that's something that you have warned about for years, having more than one disaster at a time. And Haiti has, well, now at least more than one disaster.
Meanwhile, July 2021 was Earth's hottest month ever recorded globally since record-keeping began in the 1880s. That's according to NOAA, breaking the previous record set just last year. July saw 2 flood disasters in China and Germany that each cost more than $25 billion in damages. The month also saw the hottest reliably recorded temperature for the planet, an astonishing 130 degrees Fahrenheit at Death Valley, California. It is not a good sign that this new all-time hottest month record is occurring when there is no El Nino weather pattern in the Pacific to blame for goosing global temperatures.
So everything could be worse this month had there been an El Nino this year.
Exactly.
Oh, brother.
Japan is the latest country to see record-setting torrential rains. Parts of western Japan have set new all-time highest rainfall records. Some areas deluged with 3 months' worth of rain in 24 hours. One prefecture saw more than 3.5 feet of rain in 3 days. Those have generated extreme floods and landslides that have collapsed buildings and swept away homes. Here in the U.S., the Biden administration on Monday formally declared a water shortage on the Colorado River for the first time in U.S. history, amid a decades-long mega drought that experts say is a sign of what is to come with man-made climate change. The river's main reservoirs have dropped to new historic lows. Lake Mead near Las Vegas is at 35% capacity, Lake Powell at 32%. Both are still falling, triggering the first ever mandatory water cuts in the Southwest. Starting next year, Arizona will lose almost 20% of its river allocation.
Wow.
Nevada will lose about 7%. In an interview with KUNM, John Fleck, director of the Water Resources Program at the University of New Mexico, warns that further cuts are likely, and communities should begin preparing now for even worse.
They won't.
Coping with less water is a permanent phenomenon. We cannot expect wet times to return.
So this is a problem for drinking water, for farming, and how about for power?
There are concerns about that as well from the hydroelectric plants at Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam,
which is at an all-time low.
Yes. In Northern California, new evacuations have been ordered as the relentless Dixie Fire shows no signs of slowing down more than a month after it ignited near a Pacific Gas and Electric power station. Fire experts warn that it now appears that giant infernos that burn for months on end are the new norm for California. Finally, a bit of good news. The Biden administration is moving to restore even more of the Trump administration's dismantling of efficiency standards for appliances, which, by the way, most manufacturers did not support and did not request. For light bulbs, dishwashers, clothes washers, and shower heads, which save consumers both money and water, particularly crucial amid the Western drought.
For much more on all of those stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So as we talked about yesterday, this report that came out on Monday that basically said, we knew this was a bad idea from the start. It was doomed. Everything to do with our hubris, everything to do with not understanding the culture, a whole bunch of things. And I think Monday, an interesting day for them to come out with what we need to learn from the last 20 years, especially what happened yesterday. I'm here to share some thoughts on, what did go wrong, what should we learn from this, and maybe what we should do in the future. That's why I've asked Larry Korb to come talk with us. Larry is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. He was also an assistant secretary of defense back in the early 80s, somebody that I defer to on military issues. Larry, thanks for taking time for us.
My pleasure.
So have you seen this report that, basically, it's 124 pages of, we should have known this was going to happen. We knew all along this was doomed from the start. Have you seen this?
Yes, I have.
And do you agree that we should have known this from the start?
Well, I agree that you should have taken that into account when you made your decision to leave. In other words, I spent 24 years in the Navy, and we always basically plan for the worst, hope for the best. So given what was the situation there, you should have assumed that it could go downhill very, very rapidly and plan for that. You also, if you were going to evacuate and leave, I know why President Biden picked the September 11th deadline, because that's when the attacks came. But in terms of from a military point of view, you should have waited till December because they don't do much fighting in the cold weather. It's, this is the height of the fighting season. So if you were gone then, they'd have a little bit of time, to adjust to it. And you should have said, okay, if it does go downhill rapidly or much worse, how are we going to deal with it? And then finally, you can't just focus on the Americans. You got to get all the Afghan people who helped us, translators, and helped us deal with the Taliban military threat. You got to get them out too.
Right.
And again, you hadn't planned for that. You could have started taking them out even before you announced that you were going to leave on a certain date.
Yeah, but the argument then to that is, Joe Biden did try and extend it, because wasn't May 1st the original exit date? Wasn't this what the previous administration had negotiated, that we were going to be out by then, and Biden kind of held it off a little longer?
Well, with the agreement we made with the Taliban, we'd be out in a year and a half after we made the agreement with them. And their part of the deal was they were supposed to stop fighting us, which they did. They were supposed to also negotiate with the Afghan government, which they didn't. And so you really didn't have to, keep that date. It was, Trump actually wanted to, but his military and his civilian leadership talked him out of it. So he wouldn't have, even if he had been reelected, it would have been very hard to get out by May 1st. But you did, again, you did want to leave because the Taliban had kept their part of the bargain. They weren't killing Americans. We haven't had a casualty, a death there in over a year and a half. And the other thing is, you knew you had to leave sometime, and if not now, when? Right. So, I think that, you didn't have to do it. Biden picked September 11th for, to say, symbolic reasons rather than security reasons.
Now, but here's the thing. We go back to what we talked about, during the break. Who could have predicted that the Afghan army, that we've spent 20 years training, we've spent 20 years arming with the best technology they can get, we've given them an Air Force, we've done all this stuff. Who would have thought that in such a short period of time that they wouldn't have stood up for themselves?
Well, again, you would have hoped that they would. The chances didn't seem great that they would, disassemble so quickly. But when you undertake an operation like this, you've got to plan for the worst. You have to say, well, it's not likely to happen, but what will we do if it does? Yeah. And I think that was the failure. General Milley today in his press conference said nobody predicted they'd fall in 11 days. Okay. But the fact of the matter is it was possible. And I'm surprised from a military point of view, they didn't say, well, what will we do if in fact it does?
Exactly. I mean, when I heard him say that, I'm going, well, nobody? Don't you have a lot of really smart people who are supposed to be gaming out every possible scenario? And isn't one of those a total collapse? Because, in some of the people that I've talked to, they're saying we should have known because the country horribly corrupt. The Taliban has been paying people for a long time. There's a long history of threatening families. That there's a lot here that we didn't really take into account. So it's not really surprising that it fell like this.
Well, again, you can understand why the military, which has spent so much time and blood and energy, didn't think that would happen. But you go back and you look at these generals, each of them tell us, oh, we're winning, it's going good, just hang on a little longer. They've all been wrong. And so I think that you have to take that into account. It's just like, when I was in Vietnam and Westmoreland was, talking about how great things were going, we looked and said, who's he talking about? Doesn't he know, what's happening? So again, yes, I can understand why they didn't think it would, but you got to, if you're the administration, you got to say, okay, fine, I hope you're right, but let's plan in case you're not right.
Right. And that's the thing that gets me is, I had my good friend Rich Ojeda on the program the other day, and I said, look, what's your thoughts? And he goes, we never lost a battle in Afghanistan, but we lost the war. Because there were no clear objectives. They kept constantly moving the goalposts, no exit strategy, all of these things that set us up from the beginning. So for me, the lesson to be learned in all of this is maybe we should have a clear declaration of war, which we didn't have in this case, and a clear agenda and a clear path forward. Just seems kind of logical. Now, look, I'm not a military person. I don't know anything. I know nothing, but it seems logical.
Well, again, you can go back and you say, why did it fail? People forget that we drove the Taliban out of Afghanistan. And then we decided to undertake nation building, create a unified nation in the graveyard of the empires. And then we compounded it because we started on that, then we diverted our attention to Iraq. And so that allowed the Taliban to come back. I was in New York on 9/11. And after the attacks, I was working at the Council on Foreign Relations. We got a call from the Iranian ambassador to the UN because, we don't have diplomatic relations. And he said, tell your government that we hate the Taliban and we'll help you get rid of them. They were the first country to condemn the attacks of 9/11. They did. And what happened in early 2002, we put them on the axis of evil. The first time the ambassador invited me for dinner, the next time there was no dinner or anything like that. So again, you go back and you look at those mistakes. Obama tried to rescue it. He put more troops in, but he put a date for them to get out. Well, the Taliban said, okay, we'll wait.
After all, they live there.
Yeah. So again, I think that there's been an awful lot of, of mistakes. We've done some good there. The lives of the people, are better off. And maybe the Taliban are not going to act as horribly as they used to. They seem to be giving some indications. When I went to Afghanistan in 2011 as part of an international mission to try and get negotiations going, I asked the Taliban guys, well, how will you treat women if you come back in? He said, don't worry, we won't be any worse than your allies, the Saudis.
That doesn't give me great hope.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I don't expect them to do anything right away. I expect them to be kind of calm for a little while. But eventually I do expect them to go back to their old ways. And the fear that some of my conservative friends who want to go back, I mean, there are actually people that I've met who say we shouldn't be leaving, we should be sending more people, we should be doubling and tripling and quadrupling down because we're going to win. And I still don't know what grand prize we're going to win. But there's this thought that we can change that. And I look at this report again. This American exceptionalism idea that we can do anything. We can change a nation that's been this way for thousands of years somehow because we're so exceptional that we can change it, and we can't, Larry. I don't believe we can change it.
Well, we have two objectives. One, we hope that the Taliban treat the people reasonably. The other is that it doesn't become a haven for Al Qaeda or ISIS, because that's the real threat to us. Again, what we need to be doing, and we should have done this ahead of time, work with the countries in the region, because either Russia, China, India, or it wants them to become a haven for, Al Qaeda. I mean, the Chinese say, well, if they become a haven for Al Qaeda and ISIS, they're going to go over and support the Uyghurs, so we're, keeping in concentration camps. The Iranians don't want to see a whole bunch of people coming into their, country either. The Indians are concerned about what would happen in Kashmir. So those countries, we should have been working with them, say, okay, guys, we're going to leave. Here's the deal. Let's, get together and have you tell your Taliban friends if they come back in, this is how they should act.
Right. But is this a moment for us to maybe step away from this entirely? And go, you know what? Your backyard, your problem. This is your backyard. You deal with your problems.
Well, they have more media concerns than we do, because ISIS and Al Qaeda are not going to just go after Americans. They attack a lot of countries. Our main goal is to keep them from attacking us or our allies, because, again, we are a big target because we're kind of the number one country in the world, and so they might want to be more willing to attack us.
So, politically back here, and I know you're not a political person, but, I'm looking at what the fallout is and the attacks on Biden. This is all Biden's fault. He did all this. And without, thinking about, this is a 20-year mistake in my view. There's a lot of blame to go around at every level for every decision. But for right now, the arrows are being slung at Biden. And it's my view that in the long term, I think things are going to turn around in his favor, and he's going to be the guy who got us out of there, because there have been a lot of people saying, hey, we got to get out. He was finally the guy who said, we're getting out.
Yeah, I agree that, again, if it doesn't become a haven for Al Qaeda and we don't have any terrorist attacks, he'll be overcome. But the problem you have is people look at a man, and hopefully soon a woman, in the Oval Office, and they say, can they really do things well and all this? And this was just horribly handled, even though we agree we should get out. Are you guys competent? I mean, I've talked to a lot of Biden supporters who feel that his national security team is not up to the job, not the generals, but, I mean, how much experience, is Jake Sullivan, Henry Kissinger? Or is, Tony Blinken, George Shultz? You see what I mean? In terms of the people that they have who are the key players on the national security team.
No, it's an excellent point. But again, Biden is supposed to be the guy who has all of the foreign policy chops. He's got 40 years plus experience here. This is what we're hoping on. That his long experience is going to be the one that navigates us through this. And like I said, I'm hopeful that down the road we look back at this and say it was tragic what happened over the last couple of days, but it was still the right decision to get out.
Yeah. The other thing he did, he stayed on vacation. Good gosh. Yeah. I mean, given the fact he's been a politician since 1972, no, people. I mean, all of the
optics.
Opponents are using that against him. Yeah, he went on, and then after he gave the speech, he went back again. I mean, that was just not, the way to do it.
No, I'm right there with you. But one of the other lessons that I think need to be learned is understand we were at war for 20 years, and the vast majority of people in this country felt nothing. Maybe we saw a news report. Maybe we were asked to put a yellow ribbon on the back of our car that say we support the troops. Maybe we have to stand for a minute longer after the national anthem at the ball game. But the reality is, none of us really sacrificed for this war. So isn't part of the lesson have to be that if we're going to get involved in another long conflict that are going to send our young men and women over to die in some foreign place, that at least we should struggle a little bit, a little suffer, a little sacrifice? I mean, I go back and I was looking at the tax rates. Truman raised the top marginal tax rate to 92% to pay for Korea. Johnson raised the taxes up to 77% to pay for Vietnam. George Bush cut taxes on the very wealthy and said go shopping. I'm sorry, going shopping is not sacrifice for the people in this country.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. We should have a war tax, because not only the cost of those brave men and women who fought there and volunteered to go, you have $2 trillion in veterans care that you're going to have to deal with, because in Vietnam, for every 4 people wounded, 1 died. Now for every 26 wounded, only 1 passes. So you're going to have an awful lot of people there. I don't know, again, if you realize this, but when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan and those wars were not going well, the Navy and the Marines gave 40,000 moral waivers in order to get people to volunteer. And I argued then that we should have, gone back to a draft. I think, that would have gotten people to ask the questions, because even if you don't get drafted, you might, and the families are going to say, wait a second here, my son and under the law, my daughter, could have to go.
Yep. No. And this is one of those things I was saying back then, that, this is way too easy. It's way too easy to send other people's kids, usually poor people's kids and poor working class kids, into these battles. You never see the top hogs sending their kids. It's always the poor and the working class that fight these battles. And for me, that I'm hoping is the lesson that eventually gets learned out of this. Although I got to tell you, our media structure is keeping it right between the binary choice of blaming Trump and blaming Biden. And I don't really blame either of them. I blame everybody from the start. Just my thought. But Larry, I appreciate your thoughts, your time. Always great talking with you, my friend.
Okay, anytime. Take care. Be well.
Thanks so much, Larry Korb, senior fellow there at the Center for American Progress. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break right here, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
I'm David Philman, Executive Director of AFSCME Council 13. AFSCME members enforce regulations, keep prisoners behind bars, take care of patients, protect the environment, and more. Chances are you may never see that AFSCME member working in a sewage plant, diving underwater to repair a bridge, inspecting an elevator, or answering a 911 call. But aren't you glad they do? For more information, visit AFSCME13.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, I'm looking at some of the news that's going on. For instance, Texas, one of the school districts there has decided, in order to get around Governor Abbott, who has COVID, to get around his anti-mask ban, they are now making it part of their dress code, which evidently will get around the law. Which, be creative. Be creative to protect your students. Good on you. Also, Biden is going to require nursing homes to mandate staff be vaccinated, or going to lose federal funding. At the end of the day, he's going to make you do it. He's going to, take the money out of your pocket. And also, I look at this story coming out of Kansas, where evidently the system is so overwhelmed that they are literally putting people on trains, planes, and automobiles, helicopters, and everything that they can to take them miles away to get some treatment. In fact, far-flung states that aren't having the outbreaks that they're having, and their system collapsing. Maybe that's the future. I don't know. Medical tourism now, COVID tourism. Get to see bright and wonderful hospitals in a different state. Get to die somewhere else. Scott was right. It's get vaccinated. It seems like a simple thing. Protect yourself. It seems like something that we would have learned as kids. Protect yourself. But we just don't seem to get it. Anyway, I'm hopeful. I'm still somewhat hopeful. We're taking a long weekend here the next couple of days, a couple of planned personal days to just kind of rejuvenate, re-energize, all of that. Everyone needs a little vacation every now and again, and we're going to take a little one right here. So we're going to play some of our best interviews over the next couple of days. You're not going to want to miss that. If you've missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast. The Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go wherever you go. And as always, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.